Guitar Books, the podcast. My name is Joe McMurray. Today, I'm going to be talking about 12-Bar Fingerstyle Blues by Dave Rubin. This is another great repertoire book full of 12-bar blues courses. I loved the author's other book, Solo Blues Guitar, and I now recommend this one as well. These fun arrangements inspire me to improvise in new ways with new grooves. However, unlike the arrangements of the other book, these arrangements all need to be played without a plectrum. They need to be played fingerstyle. This book has some fun tunes that late beginner fingerstyle players could handle, but the book is most appropriate for intermediate players. So before I go any farther, I do want to tell you about my own books. Fingerstyle Blues Guitar, Book 1 and Book 2. It's essentially one long book. So imagine ripping a blues solo on stage with your band, your drummer and your bassist providing a sonic soundscape in which you can play a guitar solo and improvise. Now imagine that you're all alone on your front porch and you're just relaxing with your acoustic guitar. Wouldn't you like to be able to jam out all by yourself? Well, these books are organized to help you do just that. The first priority of these books is to quickly get you playing a solo instrumental 12-bar blues and then build on it until you can freely improvise or jam. They focus on using a monotonic bass line, which maximizes your melodic freedom. Book 1 is suitable for complete beginner to intermediate players. Book 2 provides intermediate to advanced material, the icing on the cake. You can purchase these on Amazon as paperback copies or as ebooks. Also, if you haven't checked out my first book, please check out Arranging for Fingerstyle Guitar. This shows you how to arrange a very simple melody in hundreds of different ways, all within the umbrella of fingerstyle guitar. Now, back to Dave Rubin's 12-Bar Fingerstyle Blues. The tunes in 12-Bar Fingerstyle Blues contain more repetitive grooves than some of the other fingerstyle blues method books and repertoire books on the market. Fewer lyrical phrases in the melodies. Whether that's what you're looking for is up to you. However, I find that these pieces present some great grooves that you can use as the foundation for your own variations and improvisation. To really get the most out of this book, you will want to 1. Learn the example as it's written. 2. Understand and internalize the groove, and that's the shuffle or the chord stabs. 3. You're going to want to create your own melodic variations and improvisations while maintaining that original groove. Often there might be a bar of some sort of bass and chord groove, and then a bar with a melodic line or a lick. And so where you have those melodic lines or licks, you can put your own licks in. That's where you can improvise. So by treating each short 12-bar tune as a seed or template for your own creativity, you can really milk these ideas and extend them into longer performances. This book presents a lot of great 12-bar choruses from various subgenres. For experienced players, it's very fast to go through the entire book. Because each tune is a 12-bar chorus, you get a lot of ideas that you can digest, combine, and make your own in the future. This book is simple and effective if you really know how to use it. I appreciate the chronological organization of this book, which separates tunes out into subgenres, including Delta and Southern Country Blues, and that's the longest section. Then it moves on to Ragtime Blues. I don't love this section. It's super short. I think it's only one piece, and it doesn't really get into the cool, fast, complex chord changes you would normally see in Ragtime Blues, and it doesn't have the melodic content you would normally see. But regardless, it moves on to Piedmont Blues, pre-war Chicago Blues, Texas Blues, post-war Chicago Blues, and modern American solo steel string blues. Unfortunately, the tunes don't really follow a clear difficulty progression. Within each section, multiple key signatures and grooves are presented, and some just happen to be a bit harder than others. At the beginning of each subgenre, the author presents some cool history and key players to listen to. I try to set aside time within my practice sessions to listen to lots of recordings of these players. Personally, I listen on Spotify, but you can listen on whatever streaming service you have, or YouTube, or on records if you've got those. This listening is time well spent, as it attunes me to the sounds and feel that I should be aiming for as I play these tunes. 12-Bar Fingerstyle Blues provides both treble clef and tablature for each arrangement. Unfortunately, no fingering is provided in the music. For each example, I notated my own fingering in the music, after which I was able to play much more smoothly, accurately, and confidently. The skill of choosing sensible fingering is incredibly important, and you will need to look elsewhere to further develop the skill. Recordings are available online through Hal Leonard's website. These will be very helpful to many readers. As with Solo Blues Guitar, the author's other book, the recordings were done by Doug Boduk, and he's the author of Hal Leonard's Fingerpicking Guitar, which I reviewed in review number 17. This book was published in 2012 by Hal Leonard. So that's my overview of this book. I hope you are able to make an informed decision on whether this is the right book for you. But if you're still not there, I'm going to play through a bunch of the pieces for you so you can see and hear exactly what you're getting into. So here we go. So starting out, there's a 12-bar blues in G using an alternating bass. And this is the very first song, and it's one of the easier ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you go, that's the first tune in the book, and I'll keep moving on, and I'll show you the second tune in the book. This one is a 12-bar blues in E. This is a slow blues, and I think it's got a nice groove and uses some nice chord inversions and some classic bluesy sounding licks. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, great tune, and I'll keep moving on. Next, on page 9, we're going to move on to track 4. This is a boogie in C, so it's got a different vibe and feel from the other two that I played. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, fun tune, different vibe, different key. So we'll keep going here. Okay, now this is track number 7 on page 12. This is a funky 12-bar blues in E, just to show you something different. This doesn't really sound like your typical groove, so something different to spark some creativity. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. So keep moving. Track number 10. This is a classic shuffle in E. By the way, this whole time we've been in the Delta and Southern Country Blues section. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier. But here we go. This is a fun one in E, and it's got that classic shuffle on the 2nd, 4th, 6th measures, etc. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. there you go. It's a very usable groove, and it leaves space for your own improvisations. On like measure one you could improvise, measure 2 do the groove, measure 3 improvise, measure 4 play the groove. So that's a good one. I'll keep going. This is track 11. This is a great usable groove in A, and this is still in that Delta and Southern Country Blues section. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. I think that's the last one that I'll play for you in that section. Yeah, so now moving on to the ragtime blues section. This is that tune that, it's not ragtime like in Richard Saslow's The New Art of Ragtime, or other fingerstyle blues repertoire books that I have. It's kind of missing those intricate melodies and more complex chord progressions. This mostly stays on a G7 chord the entire time. So I'll play it though for you. Okay. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Maybe it's something that you could sing ragtime over, but yeah, let's keep moving on to the Piedmont Blues section. This is a fun tune in the key of C, so here we go. Oh, this is track number 15, by the way, on page 21. So again, we're in the key of C here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. Okay, moving on to the pre-war Chicago blues section. Those players like Big Bill Brunsey and Memphis Minnie, and on slide you had Tampa Red. This is track number 18 on page 24. This is a 12-bar blues in G with some nice lead lines. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. We'll move on to the Texas blues now. Players like Blind Lemon Jefferson and Lightnin' Hopkins played in this style. They're from Texas. So here we go. Let's turn the page. Okay, track number 20 on page 26 has a great slow blues in E. I really like playing this one. It has some great licks. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. So, really fun tune. It's got some great classic bluesy lines in E. So we'll keep going. On the next page, we have the beginning of the post-war Chicago blues section. This is stuff like Muddy Waters. This one's really fun. This would probably be a lot easier to play on an electric guitar, but I'll do my best. At least I have my short-scaled Martin 00 here, so I can bend a little bit easier. But here we go. This is track number 21 on page 27. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a fun one. I'll keep going. Alright, so we're going to move on to the final section. This is the section on Modern American Solo Steel String Blues. Track 25 is a boogie in A. There's not really any melody, it's just a groove, and it's a non-standard 12-bar progression. It doesn't have the typical 4 bars of the 1 chord, 2 bars of the 4 chord, etc. Mostly stays on A. But here we go. This is fast. It's an up-tempo boogie. There you go. It's fun to play. Maybe you could mix it in with some other melodic content. But there you go. That's the final track in the book. There you have it. 12-bar fingerstyle blues, 25 solo pieces for acoustic or electric guitar. I like playing them on acoustic, but it would be super fun to play these with a drummer and a bassist or something like that. Or some of them you could sing over, that sort of thing. But this is a fun book. And before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit more about my own books. So again, please check out Fingerstyle Blues Guitar, Book 1 and Book 2. These are an in-depth study of the 12-bar blues in the key of E major. They're available in paperback or ebook format on Amazon. These are different from other books on the market because they really start out super easy, beginner-friendly, complete beginner-friendly, and they have a very smooth difficulty progression and all the way to an advanced level. Hopefully after a couple chapters, beginner players can start to improvise and make up their own courses. More advanced players can move forward and learn lots of tricks of the trade and icing on their cake, that sort of stuff. So I'll show you a little bit about what we do in these books, what we'll go through. So you'll start out just learning how to play the monotonic bass line. That's this just on an E chord. And then in chapter 2, we'll slowly introduce melody notes, 1 string at a time. It's very slow and the difficulty progression is very smooth. You'll start learning to play things with simple rhythms, stuff like this. And then you'll eventually use the 2nd string. Then you'll use the 1st and 2nd strings combined. In chapter 3, we move on to using 8th notes and syncopated rhythms, and it starts to sound much more interesting. In measure 4, we start looking at stylistic techniques. These are things like hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, grace notes, quarter note bends, vibrato, all the stuff that really adds soul into your playing. It sounds so much more interesting. So take this kind of like, you can add a half step or a quarter step bend. So from nothing, here's plain and then with the quarter step bend. So it just sounds a lot more interesting, much more like a blues singer. So moving on to the end of this book, we look at incorporating bass lines and chord voicings. So the general rule of thumb here is that when you're doing something interesting with the melody, you can keep the bass more simple. When the melody stops, when you end a melodic phrase, you can do something more interesting in the bass. So maybe you play boom. So So you can see at the end of my melodic phrases, I added just like 1 or 2 note bass walks. You can do entire bass groove, chord and bass grooves like in the chapter on chord voicings, we look at things like just adding little voicings. Things like that are fun to use. They were used by players like Robert Johnson and everybody. Moving on to book 2, we look at how to incorporate other scales, things like the Dorian scale. So it's that major second and that major sixth that really give it that Dorian flavor, that mysterious flavor. We look at minor third to major third rolls. They have a classic bluesy sound. We go on to look at playing with triplet rhythms and in 6/8 time or 12/8 time. We look at turnarounds, so things like there's lots of complicated ones you can do. I have tons of detail in here. I essentially wrote like a thesis on turnarounds. So I really enjoy that chapter. I think it adds a lot of flair to your blues playing. You don't need a turnaround at the end of every chorus, but they're definitely fun to play and it's fun to make up your own. At the end of the second book, I finally introduce other keys, so playing in the key of A and the key of D with drop D tuning and in dadgad tuning. And in G as well, in standard tuning. And finally, I show you how to play using an alternating bass line, Travis style, because that is used in lots of fingerstyle blues, and everything that you've learned throughout the course of the 2 books can be used when you're playing with an alternating bass line as well. It's just, you're a little bit more tied down. It's harder to play fancy melodies because you're also holding down bass notes. But yeah, so that's the book. It is definitely more focused on lyrical phrasing, creating lyrical sounding melodies while you're playing the blues. Fewer grooves compared to Rubin's book that we just were talking about. So that's that book, and please check them out. Also, if you haven't checked out Arranging for Fingerstyle Guitar, again, this shows you how to take a simple melody and how to add all the fingerstyle goodness underneath or above that melody. So I take a really simple melody and we'll add whole note bass lines underneath, and then we'll add some inner harmony between the melody and the bass. We'll add Travis style bass line, we'll add arpeggiation, we'll add all kinds of fancy tricks like harmonizing the melody in thirds and sixths and tenths. We'll use natural and artificial harmonics. We will transpose the melody to different keys. There's lots of ways to arrange a fingerstyle guitar tune. So thank you for checking this out. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my music. I have lots of music streaming on all the streaming services. So here's my latest album, Pins on the Map, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.